Said, I'm privileged to be here today. TEDx, of course, is an extremely well-known event, and we have been there before in Silicon Valley and elsewhere. I studied in the campus opposite IIT Madras in 1974, and then went to IIMA in 76, and as the brief bio mentioned, worked for 33 years in corporate life. But the last 3 years have been amazing in terms of giving full time to a foundation like Agastya. And the reasons are not far to seek. You look at these two children. They are from absolute rural backgrounds. They come from first-generation learning families. Carpenter's daughter, farmer's daughter, and so on and so forth, from a very backward district of Andhra Pradesh. Jyotsna and Bhargavi won the Broadcom Masters International Delegate Award at Intel Iris 2011. I was there. Agastya promoted children. 18 teams went, presented project ideas. Out of over 1,000 ideas that were presented, out of the 100 shortlist, 11 were from Agastya children. And 3 of them won medals. And these children, from absolutely no background whatsoever in science or even education, have been able to win, and not only that, one of the higher awards, and they're going to Pittsburgh this year. How does this happen? How did this happen? Is this transformation? In today's world of rote learning, test-oriented education, making children think, sparking curiosity, from curiosity to creativity, is one of the most important things that we need to do. Agastya does exactly that, and I'm privileged to be there. Hands-on learning, transformation, disadvantaged children, and teachers. And the teacher part is very important. It's not possible for a single organization, purely on a non-profit basis, funded from munificent corporates and HNIs, to change the world, particularly India with its huge numbers. So teachers become very important. And fun and learning is depicted by the 2 cartoon characters that we often put in our... Who are we? We are a movement led by entrepreneurs, educators, scientists, and so on and so forth. And our mission is to propagate creative temper through experiential learning, teacher education, which is scalable. So we meet 1 million children a year in the course of our work. It's not one pocket in one corner of Kuppam or wherever. It's 1 million children. What do? We, through our partners, catalyze social development, innovation, and leadership, and we do it in a humane way. So if you look at that triangle there at the corner, you'll find humane, anchored, and connected. So creating a rural India, which is empowered, which is hands-on, which is curious and creative. Why do we need that? Because the world that we are living in is getting more and more complex. If every one of our citizens don't get involved in, say, ecology, water, energy, we are going to... So that is a very important thing, that people have to be scientifically anchored and tempered. What is our approach to learning? What do? I talked about rote learning, and that's what is represented by the white triangle on the top. But maximum learning takes place when we see and hear things, or discuss things, or do a project based on that. And ultimately, when you teach somebody else, you learn much more. So it's not just the beneficiary from the other side. You benefit a lot too. And that is where we are anchored. The Agastya approach is creative learning. How does this happen? If you look at rural children or children in schools in general, most of the time we find that they are passive people. They just pass through class. And for other reasons which are also well anchored in terms of not taxing the child or making them feel failure, we promote everybody. So today's a child can get into 5th standard and go all the way up to 10th standard, not knowing anything, concepts or language or whatever. It's perfectly possible in certain states. You pass everybody who goes through the system. Now, that can be very, very passive. What we try and do is through a series of interventions, which you can see on the top, mobile labs, repeated visits, a lab in a box, a science center, camps, science fairs, and so on and so forth, make them from this passive receiver to first an awareness at a mass level, then interest, from interest, curiosity, curiosity to discovery, discovery to involvement, problem solving. First identify the problem, and so on. Then tinkering with things. In fact, I'm kind of, I want to coin a word called tinkerer, which has got a H in between. Think and tinker. So tinkerer is the kind of thing I would like to do. Exploring, and so on, and ultimately creative in the kind of practice. It's not. So that is the kind of thing. In the meantime, you have the engaged teacher, hopefully. Doesn't often, not many teachers get involved when we do the mobile lab or science center sessions, but if they do, you will have a change, transform teacher who can transform 100 other people every year. And therefore, you've got a force multiplier effect. What do we do? At our campus, which is about 172 acres in Kuppam, we do things like interactive model making, the tools, the pedagogy. That is where embracing technology comes. Technology is not just about iPads and other things. Technology has to be appropriate. The people that we are in touch with is 5th standard to 10th standard children and teachers who teach them. What is appropriate for them? For them, the appropriate thing is move away just from the books. Get hands-on models. That is technology. That is embracing technology. Get them the tools. A whole lot of them have not seen a lab for ages. They don't have one. They have got single teacher, single room kind of schools. And even if it has got a lab, it's kind of locked up behind a cupboard of the principal most of the time for fear of being found out or broken or whatever. This is our experience after going through thousands and thousands of schools in several states in the country. So interactive model making tools, creative life skills, and all of that is done nationwide, large-scale dissemination using mobile labs, the science centers, and several things that I have listed there, including higher-level programs. So these are the core programs that we do. The campus itself, as you can see here, is got multiple facilities. It's ecologically transformed from what it was 10, 11 years ago when we took it over. It was red shingled land. There was nothing on it. Today, it's a green campus with life coming back. You got all kinds of botanical and zoological life coming back into that campus. So, as I said, you can see the contrast there, 2003 when we took over versus now. And that's not just a photo trick. Dead tree trunks. What we got on the highways, when they were making the highways, they cut big trees. And we thought the life had gone out of those trunks. We came and transplanted them here and they started sprouting life. So there is that sap of life inside dead tree trunks. Now they're regenerating and we've got a forest going on that. We've got a complete creativity lab. One of them is a large 40,000 square feet center fashioned along the lines of the Exploratorium in San Francisco. And children are encouraged to touch, break, do things. Not, keep off the lawn, don't touch this kind of stuff. Touch, feel, experience. Doesn't matter if you break, but learn. That is the kind of thing that we do. They are encouraged to question all the time. You'll see a square wheel bicycle in the middle. So funny ideas that make them think, how does that work? Square wheel how does it work? So that kind of thing, the arc and so on. If you look at a simple tippity toy which you get from Channapatna near Bangalore, and if you rotate it, it just stands on its head. If I had a platform here, I'll show it to you. How does it happen? So when the child starts getting into two things, I would say, the child looks at something and says, that is a revelation moment. That is the moment of revelation or discovery. And then the next time they ask questions and then gets answers, he says, that is understanding what happens there. Initially the what and then the why and the how. So the and the aha moment if you produce, like Einstein was transformed in his mind when his father gave him a compass, simple compass, at the age of 5. And at 70, Einstein quoted back, saying that was the transformation in my life. That is when I started thinking, there is some universal force that's acting behind to make the needle point to the north all the time. And therefore, that is the kind of moments that we want to create. And we do this not just at the campus, but reaching out from the campus into science centers. You can see people like C.N.R. Rao there, mobile labs and so on. We run 3 mobile labs for Dr. Abdul Kalam in Bihar with his foundation and so on. So right now we have about 65 mobile labs, 30 science centers, a large campus, and several coming up as we go forward, and in multiple places in the country. In Chennai here, right here, there is a mobile lab you would see outside. We operate with CPCL's participation. The other thing is pedagogical. It's not enough if you have infrastructure. A lot of people have infrastructure. I was in South Boston the other day with some American children. Huge infrastructure, lovely teacher, but totally uninterested children. It doesn't help. So you need to have motivation and pedagogy that engages the children. And that is something that we constantly do by using young instructors, young instructor leaders, kinesthetic learning. Different kind of pedagogical inputs is something that we do all the time, and make them do things beyond just science. Get into teamwork, leadership. How do you, make something happen from small thing to design thinking, to make it happen, to implement it, to market it, and so on. So the result has been an achievement culminating from a broad base of action with rural kids being in the top 2% in India in multiple forums. As I said, in the Intel Iris Science Fest for 4 years running now, we've been sending teams which have won medals and have been going out and winning medals for the country. So this is the kind of thing that we have done from input that is not exactly, well-read or parents who are already anchored in education. I want to show you a film on innovation, just small-time innovation. Okay. No, voice is not coming through. So, these 2 children in rural Karnataka observed that groundnut shells are being thrown out when they went to their grandmother's place for a vacation. And then they were thinking about it, and then they said, okay, how do we do at once recycling and make something useful out of that? So using these groundnut outer shells and, okra, the lady fingers, using that to cook a paste using pressure cookers, simple pressure cooker that's available in a kitchen. They made a paste out of that. They mixed this in the right proportions, dried it, sun-dried it with solar energy, and made it into thin sheets, which are like fiberboard paper, and created greeting cards and things like that. And this is completely thrown away material, which they have made it into something worthwhile to do from their side. So the innovation that went into small ground-level innovation that went into it, this is the kind of thing that we encourage as we go forward, and they learn a hell of a lot from that. So innovation it doesn't come just by, allowing people to do whatever they want at any point in time. There is a little bit of structuring to getting people to think innovatively, which is what we try and do, curiosity to creativity to innovation. But one of the philosophies of progress that we have is that you can do something in a pocket, but if you want to feel the whole thing transforming, so transformation, if it is your goal, then you've got to do it in an absolute mass scale, which is why the first sentence there is increase the depth of the ocean by 1 mm instead of raising the depth of the well by 10 feet in a corner. So anything impactful in one part of the country is worth doing elsewhere, and why should anyone be deprived of an opportunity? So this is our philosophy of progress or scaling up. And how do we do that? We build external relationship. Right now, we have an ongoing program with Karnataka government where we are building 5 campuses. Not as big as the Kuppam one, which is 172 acres, but the one in Raichur, which is here, will be about 20 odd acres, and Hubli Dharwad will be about 5-6 acres, and so on, and another 4 campuses. That will get integrated and create a whole science ecosystem, as it were. So that is one external relationship. The other one that we have done is a global partnership with HP, where, again, embracing technology, using the power of digital content that's available and the learning that can be done. We are the consortium leader for what's known as a New Learner Consortium, which looks at how does the 21st century STEM learner, which is very, very relevant to this audience in an engineering college, of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics discipline people, how does the student learn? Because it's not going to be any longer just your teacher and yourself and your lab. It's going to be multiple sources from which you can learn. And what you want to learn, you go and pick up from various sources. So how does the 21st century learner, new learner, learn STEM subjects? So that we lead that initiative for HP globally. Now, this is external partnerships alone won't do. How do you make your own innovations reach more and more at lower and lower costs? So last year we did another innovation. There is this mobile lab. This mobile lab goes to a school, spends about 6 hours, but it's like a cuckoo clock. I mean, it just goes in, comes out, 6 hours. And then you're not able to visit that school again for another 3 months because you've got so much to do, so many other schools to cover. So how do you, make that a more intense program? So one of the things that we did was a disaggregation exercise. I have 100+ experiments in this mobile lab. I broke it down into 10 different boxes, each one representing a subject. So you take, optics or sound or electromagnetism or organic chemistry or plant botany or whatever it is, create 10 boxes full of experiments and models, and then have them rotated among 10 schools, each school spending about a week or so with the box, with a connected teacher, and facilitate the teacher, train the teacher, and so on and so forth. So we do this rotation scheme. Thereby, in a matter of about 10 to 12 weeks, 10 different subjects in 10 different schools are completely done. So the children are totally familiar with hands-on learning in these subjects in that 10 weeks. And then we do it again and again. In a matter of 1 year, you can do 3 such rotations. So Lab in a Box is a rotation scheme which has worked beautifully for us. So, and it's also much lower cost than the mobile lab. With all this, what is our vision? We want to cover 9 million children between 2013 and 17, with 28 million exposures, close to 800,000 teacher exposures with 12 states, from where we are today, which is 4 million children and 360,000 teachers. So growth and social metrics projected. We have done quite well. We have kind of more than tripled what we have done in terms of exposures between 2007 and 2008. Number of teachers covered is almost doubled. Community members covered is 10 times because we have put a lot of emphasis on that. And number of science fairs, peer-to-peer young instructors has been some 16 times earlier, and so on. But between now, 2010-11, to in a 10-year time frame, our 10-year vision, and which we do very actively, is virtually 10 times. So the kind of scale-up that we are talking about is absolutely immense. 10 times what we do. That's what we want to do. And unless you set really ambitious targets. And let me tell you, funding is not going to be the issue here. Everybody will think that you need funds. But what's most important is your vision and your single-minded, perseverance of going after it come what may. Second is managerial ability to manage such scale. And the third is funding. And we are very, very confident going forward, the kind of partnerships that we have built. National Knowledge Commission has said that Agastya kind of work has to be done in every state. A lot of HNIs and corporates are coming forward. And therefore, we're very confident that we will go ahead and do what we set out to do in 2010-20. By the time, I think it'll be a large-scale transformation. I thank you very much.